Hey guys, eQuest here, and I just wanted to make this video to detail the trials and tribulations of my first saltwater reef tank. I think this video can really be helpful for a first time reefer, and I hope you enjoy it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you after the intro. First things first, I used the cheapest sand possible, and that meant that it was sugar sized and it definitely caused a lot of problems. When I had my filter, which was an Aquaclear 70 facing forward, it caused the sand to make a large divot at the outtake, and it was also hard to maintain because you had to be careful not to kick up anything when you're going around gravel vacuuming the tank. Or if you wanted to move some corals around, you had to take care not to disturb the sand too much because you don't want a dust cloud, and you also don't want it going through your impeller. I would recommend, especially for a small tank where you don't have as much space, to use special grade sand or a larger grain size sand so that it's easier to maintain. Looks like I got a little too ahead of myself. I just wanted to make sure that you guys know that all these clips are from a couple years ago, and it details how the tank has progressed and evolved. And unfortunately, I don't have this tank anymore because I did upgrade to a bigger tank. But yeah, this little 10-gallon tank was the one that started it all. My second tip is that you'll have to top off the aquarium much more often than a larger tank because evaporation is relatively quicker in smaller bodies of water. So a good idea is keeping a large water bottle and filling it whenever the water level goes down. That way you only have to refill the bottle once a week or so, and you can top off the tank when you feed the fish. You would also have to keep up on the salinity much more than a larger tank due to 1, it's easier to change the salinity in a smaller body of water, and 2, evaporation has a larger effect, so salinity will rise faster since evaporation only takes water and leaves the salt behind in the tank. So make sure when you do water changes you have exactly 1.025 to 1.026 and you keep up on your top offs. Third tip I got actually from Inappropriate Reefer, where I put the hang-on back filter, which was an Aquaclear 70, on the side of the tank so that 1, it looks better than using it on the front, and 2nd, you don't have to buy a power head because if you have enough gallons per hour, like 200 to 300 with the Aquaclear filter, you kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and you're able to provide filtration and flow to your aquarium with 1 product. The only problem with this is that you can't use the standard glass tops that come with the tank with this configuration, so you'd either have to go open top, use egg crate, or make your own glass or plastic top to combat evaporation and or prevent fish from jumping out. But if you're a handy guy, then it shouldn't be a hard project. The fourth tip is actually really important, and you probably already heard it before, but make sure you use RODI water, especially with a nano tank. It's godsend, and the entire time I had issues with the tank, I can attribute it to not using RODI water. And luckily for you, you don't really need a whole filtration system like I do to get RODI water. You only need a 5-gallon bucket since you're maintaining a system smaller than 30 gallons, which lets you go to your local fish shop to get the water. There's no way I can transport 35 gallons of water to and from my LFS, and if I actually had to do that, because let's just say you can't use RODI in the house, I wouldn't even bother keeping saltwater aquariums. I also want to say it isn't as hard as it seems to be, and it's pretty straightforward once you get the gist of things. You don't really have to worry about dosing because water changes are enough to remineralize your tank. And you don't really need as much coral growth since you have a smaller footprint to work with. Lighting might be a little more expensive if you go for the standard options, but I went with the super cheap $30 option, and I was able to have kinda decent growth barring any other problems with water quality. You know, going back to me using tap water. The only thing I found wrong with the $30 light is that it got extremely hot, and it probably makes sense since I'm buying a reef tank light for like 30 bucks. I'll put the link in it in case y'all really want it and don't care, but I don't really know. A part of me just wants to recommend a $60 to $80 option, but I don't know how much better it is, to be honest. It'll definitely be better quality of like materials wise, like maybe even safer. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable using this in a place with a pretty hot climate, but I'm just talking about providing sufficient light to corals. Oh well, I used this light and it worked okay for me. I guess if you live somewhere where it's decently cold for some of the year and it doesn't really get too hot in the summer, it'd be okay. The only other small tank light I used is the AI Prime, which is $240, and that's way out of budget by a lot, on top of a lot. Well, that's all I have on keeping your first Nano Reef tank. Remember, your first tank, along with mine, will probably not be successful, but you'll learn a lot and improve your skills. This brings me to my last tip. Just do it and don't worry about the outcome. Research enough to improve your chances, but don't do too much research because the experience will teach you a lot more than reading some articles. I know a lot of people are afraid of saltwater, and it's for good reason, but with time, you'll find it can be easier than freshwater. You just have to make that first leap. I mean, look at my tank when it first started. It looked like crap, and by the end of it, it looks so much better than what I originally started with. With that said, I'll see you in a bit.